A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. Welcome to another edition of Bearing Arms, Cam & Company. My name is Cam Edwards. I am glad that you are with us today. Got a busy show going on. Rhonda Ezell is going to join us here in just a couple of minutes talking about everything that has taken place in the city of Chicago recently. You know, Rhonda, a longtime Second Amendment advocate and activist in the city of Chicago, founder of Chicago Guns Matter, a plaintiff in a case, the Ezell case, challenging the lack of concealed carry in the state of Illinois. That has since been rectified because Illinois has gone from a state, the last state in the nation to ban concealed carry, to actually being a shall issue state. And while there are tens of thousands of concealed carry holders in the city of Chicago, there are unfortunately tens of thousands of criminals as well, and they are emboldened right now. Gun owners, concealed carry holders, not so much. Criminals seem to have the upper hand in the Windy City, and the Chicago Tribune is out with an editorial blasting Chicago Mayor Lori Lightfoot, Cook County State's Attorney Kim Foxx, and David Brown, the superintendent of the Chicago Police Department, for their inability and unwillingness to actually address not only the street crime that has been spiraling out of control in recent months in Chicago, but the politically motivated violence that we saw late Sunday night, early Monday morning in downtown, where hundreds of individuals smashing stores, using vehicles in some cases to ram into the glass storefronts on the Magnificent Mile. At least 2 people shot, more than 100 people arrested, which is good that they actually were able to make some arrests. But as the Chicago Tribune editorial board says, the perception is reality. And the perception right now is that Chicago is an unsafe place, no matter where in the city you happen to be. Is that the reality? It's one of the things we talked about with Rhonda Ezell. Take a look and a listen. Rhonda, it is so good talking with you again. Thank you so much for coming on the program today.
Cam, thank you for having me. It's great to be back.
It is always a pleasure. Although I do have to say, I wish the topic were better because, you know, I've been thinking a lot about you and some of my other friends in Chicago, Chip Eberhardt. You know, when I see the news about what's going on there, the spike in violent crime, and then the looting that took place late Sunday night, early Monday morning. I just got to ask, first of all, I mean, what is your take on what's going on in Chicago right now?
Well, my take on what's going on right now is that ever since the global pandemic hit, things have been totally different around the country. Mm-hmm. And what we've noticed is that politicians have allowed for protesters to protest in the street, but some of those protests has been hijacked by agitators and disruptors. And so it has gotten to the point where they have allowed these protests to go on so long where we see the violence taking place, and they've labeled them as peaceful protesters, knowing that some of those protesters weren't peaceful, and it has gotten out of hand. So when we take a look at what happened just recently the other day, it stems from the same thing. We already saw where the city had been looted and vandalized and destroyed just a couple months ago, which pretty much destroyed the city of Chicago. And just the night before last, we saw there was a situation where there was a shooting, a police officer and a young man got into a shootout or something of that nature. Police shot an individual, and those people got on social media and put together a protest, and they met downtown and they did looting and things of that nature. But I fought the political powers to be. I fought Mayor Lori Lightfoot. You know, she had an opportunity to be a great mayor and be a mayor for a long time, but she's turned the wrong corner here. And she's allowed these protests to go on in the streets of the city of Chicago for months now without doing anything about it or stopping any of the things that we see taking place. And it just gotten out of hand. And it's not going to get any better until they decide to, hold these people accountable for their actions.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like you've got two different things, and maybe I don't want to say two different, but two adjacent things happening. There is the let's say politically motivated violence that we saw late Sunday night, early Monday morning, the smashing and grabbing of stuff downtown, the shooting that took place. There were 2 people shot, I guess, during that violence in downtown. But then you also have the quote unquote street crime, right, which is also way up over the last few months since the pandemic began, as you say. And so the carjackings, the drive-by shootings, that type of crime that Chicago has known, unfortunately, for years, that's increasing as well. And it seems like the city really hasn't had a handle on either of those forces that are creating such chaos in Chicago right now.
Well, they haven't, and they probably never will. These are things that they know exist, but for some reason, if we take a look at the bigger picture, it's all stemming around the November election. So they're allowing these things to take place, and they're creating these situations that's not safe for anyone.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's not safe for civilians. It's not safe for business owners. It's not safe for anyone in law enforcement either. So when we take a look at the consistent violence, here's a prime example. What we saw last week in the very area that the mayor is so bent out of shape about right now, on the Mag Mile, we had shooting there in broad daylight. 3 people were shot. Someone was killed. The mayor was nonchalant about what happened. Now, just 2 days ago, with the looting and the vandalism, the very same area, which is the Gold Coast, which is downtown area, Mag Mile, River North, the Gold Coast, those are economic engines that move this city. So it affects the bottom line of the city of Chicago financially. So she was very angry about the situation of the looting and the smash and grabs and so on and so forth, that she came out and said, we're coming after you for looting. But she's not concerned about the shootings and the killing and the violence. We saw 40 kids, babies as well, that were shot and killed in the city of Chicago so far this year. And we didn't get that reaction from her. But we got it when they damaged the upper echelon of the city of Chicago in the financial district where, all these high-end boutiques are.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to ask yourself, what is this really about? It's all politicized. And we've been talking about this for a decade now. And I tell people now, you can take a look at any of the interviews that I did previously over the years. And it's the same thing, just, different toilets. We've talked about the violence. We've talked about political powers to be. The only thing that's different is we have a global pandemic in which no one wants to blame China for actually attacking America with a biological weapon. But here we are.
Yeah. And unfortunately, as you say, I think that you're right that, folks like Lori Lightfoot and a lot of other Democratic mayors as well, really view this through that political lens of the elections in November. And I hate to say it, but it seems to me that you're right. I mean, the violent crime in Chicago, maybe that's a known entity, and maybe that's why Mayor Lightfoot hasn't responded the way she has when all of a sudden now there's looting, there's storefronts being broken in these pretty affluent areas. That seems to generate more of a public response than kids being shot in high crime neighborhoods. More of a political response. Is that what you're saying?
Right. You have to, yes, absolutely. You have to evaluate these things, because the bottom line here is they're taking this global crisis of COVID and they're utilizing it. They're weaponizing it financially and politically. We can tell that, because every time you turn around, and I quote, the Black and brown community is disenfranchised. Well, the very people that are making these statements are the people that have held office for 20, 30, 40 years that could have done something about that a long time ago. But when we see them mentally manipulate the general public with the terminology that they utilize on a daily basis, telling them that they've been disenfranchised, but this is what's good for them, and they want to tell you, okay, we have a COVID place here where you can go get testing. Think about that. Process that for a moment. That you're more concerned about telling someone that because of the skin of their color, they are affected the most, when we know viruses, germs, or bacteria don't care about any individual color or ethnicity. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes down to the violence, it's not a lot done about that. We have a new superintendent. And if he was smart enough, he would be speaking out, reaching out and speaking with the previous administration, which was Eddie Johnson. This man, Mr. Brown, is never going to have the opportunity to run the city accordingly because the mayor is not going to allow that. You know, our city council took a vote, gave her more power to do whatever she needed to do, and she's running with that. So they got a taste of this power, her along with our governor, and they're just acting like little tyrants. But they won't speak out on the violence or do something that, you know, needs to be done to prevent these things from happening. But here's the problem. They set this up and it came back to bite them in their butt. Allowing these protesters and demonstrators to go downtown knowing that agitators will be there to destroy property, destroy businesses, do whatever they do with law enforcement, do their looting and their vandalizing, and then go back home to their nice little pad while they destroy our neighborhoods, and then come back the next day and tell you something else about you need to put on a mask to be safe. Like, What are we talking about here?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've got to ask, Ron, I mean, do you think that given the inability or the unwillingness, perhaps of, Mayor Lightfoot and other officials to actually address violent crime, is that leading to more residents in Chicago saying, well, heck, I'm going to get a gun to protect myself? I mean, we know around the country, we've got record high gun sales. National Shooting Sports Foundation estimates as many as 2 million new gun owners since the first of the year. I actually saw an ad for a concealed carry course in Chicago yesterday that a local rapper is actually putting on, which I thought was kind of interesting. Little pricey for me. It was like $500. You got a picture with them, and you got some other extras. But are more people in Chicago, you think, embracing their Second Amendment rights and saying, all right, I'm going to get a gun, I want to protect myself in my home, or even I want to get my concealed carry license because I'm worried about going out on the streets of Chicago right now?
But you know what? They are, because I've been out with a couple of guys that are giving classes and courses, and I've been opening up their class, speaking to the class that they have. And it's because of the beginning of the global pandemic, where people were shopping and there was nothing else in the stores. And so there was a panic there. And then there was the George Floyd situation. And then so people really started to wake up, and they started to get afraid. They saw what was happening. They saw the civil unrest taking place, and no one was stopping it. That's how we got to this point with the current situation. So yes, more people are getting involved. I mean, we went to the gun range a month ago, and it was packed. A full house. So people are taking classes and courses left and right. They're getting organized. They're getting involved. They're being educated. And I've seen this with my own two eyes. I was in the class.
I'm really glad to hear that.
It's just something that we've been waiting to happen for a long time. I mean, we've been doing this a decade now, literally. And I don't know what else I can say or do. I mean, it's not a competition. It's just that when will they wake up? And I've been saying this for a long time. You've interviewed me countless times. And it's been the same question. Like, well, when would the people wake up? Well, guess what? The people have woken up.
Yeah. Yeah, and some people are deep sleepers. I mean, some people will hit that snooze button and they'll go back to sleep as long as they can. But you're right. I think that this has been a wake-up moment for not just a lot of residents of Chicago, but really for, a lot of Americans. Because
across the country.
Yeah, absolutely. And unfortunately, I'm not. I mean, me, Ronnie, you and I talked for years. I'm a pretty optimistic person, but I don't see a quick fix in Chicago or New York City or Seattle or Baltimore or any of these other cities. Maybe after the election's over, maybe all of a sudden they'll get serious about it. But I'm not convinced. I mean, and I'm looking at a quote here. This was one of the. So there was apparently a rally outside of the South Loop police station in Chicago last night in support of those who were arrested for looting. Ariel Atkins, who's a organizer for Black Lives Matter, said, quote, "I don't care if somebody decides to loot a Gucci or a Macy's or a Nike store because that makes sure that person eats. That makes sure that person has clothes. She went on to say, this is reparations. Anything they wanted to take, they can take because these businesses have insurance. Now, I look at that attitude, Rhonda, and that scares the heck out of me, because at that point, who's to say, well, Rhonda, you've got homeowners insurance, and I know you're not a small business, but you got some stuff in there that I want, so I'm going to go into your home and take your belongings, because you've got insurance. It's no big deal. I mean, if this type of mentality of, well, yeah, this isn't my stuff, but I'm going to take it, and it doesn't matter, and no harm, no foul, it's a victimless crime. If that attitude takes root, we're not just talking about Nike stores. We're not just talking about Apple stores. We're not talking about the Magnificent Mile. Again, you're talking about small business owners. You're talking about people who've worked their entire life to build up their establishment, and it can be taken from them in an instant.
Absolutely. Well, first and foremost, it wouldn't be a good idea to come to think that they can take anything here. So, just so we get
point taken.
Wouldn't work out well. Nevertheless, I've been saying this for the longest, the fact that when you go and you vandalize and you lose a small business owner, those people have worked and invested into their future. You have not only robbed them of their merchandise, you've robbed them of their future and their children's future, because they're working to put their kids through college. Like, that's something my child would have never been able to do, to come home with something that his parents did not purchase. It wasn't allowed.
Yeah.
It wouldn't have been, it's not acceptable. I don't agree with the notion that you think because someone owes you something, that criminal activity is the answer. If you want to change something and you feel that way, have this meeting and find those people that agree with you and educate them on changing the people that are in office. They have a right to vote. But if you continue to go out in the street and commit crime and vandalize and loot and get into it with law enforcement and get arrested, you're going to violate those rights. You're going to become a felon. You're not going to be able to change anything the legal, lawful way that you can if you go to the ballot box and vote. You're going to be somewhere sitting behind bars thinking that it's okay to take things that you feel that aren't yours.
Yeah.
It's okay to support a movement, but I can support a movement. I don't support the upper echelon of Black Lives Matter, because it's George Soros, and these people already told us that they are trained marketers and that their end game is to destroy America within. So when you process the words coming out of their own mouth, it's a whole different take. But for the younger youth that are out there marching and protesting with their hands up and kneeling and so on and so forth, that don't really understand that, because they're not old enough to know any better, but they really think that they're fighting for their cause because they are Black, I can understand why they're there, because they're teenagers and they're being utilized as pawns.
Absolutely.
And when they get through, protesting peacefully, that's when the Antifas and the bad apples show up, and then they just go crazy. And then, they disrupt the whole situation. And then we have no stores. We wake up and our Jewels and our local Walgreens and our Walmarts and everything is vandalized, and we have nothing in the neighborhood. And it's not because we live in a bad neighborhood. It's because mentally and psychologically, you have let these people believe that the things that they were doing were fine.
Yeah. No, it's a fantastic point that you make, because you're right. I think that, look, if there weren't legitimate grievances, then you wouldn't have even peaceful protesters, right? The Black Lives Matter movement would not be attracting the attention that it is attracting. However, as you say, groups like Antifa, those who want to, burn everything down, and they promise to build a utopia on the ashes, they do take advantage of
absolutely
of the legitimate complaints and the peaceful protests, and they kind of glom onto that and then try to enact their own agenda. And I think we're seeing that play out again, not only in Chicago but Portland and elsewhere.
Right, it's across the country. If you take a hard look at what's really going on, I say the things that people won't say. I mean, we see all this Black Lives Matter marching and protesting, but we see nearly 99.9% of white people that are out there marching and protesting and doing all the fighting and clowning. Now, in Chicago, it was different. Those people came from that neighborhood where that shooting happened the other night. But even if you take a look at the previous protest, most of those people were white people that were out there, because they get to tear up and destruct. That's what they're getting paid to do.
Yeah.
They get to come out. They set this whole thing up. They'll set it up and say, yeah, guys, come out. We're going to support you. But then you take a look at the crowd and you say, okay, well, there's not, a ton of black people here, but Black Lives Matter though. And then they got their hammers and they got their masks on and they're destroying property. But this is the Soros thing. This is the Bloomberg book. I mean, that goes back to our mayor. If you take a listen to the things that she's saying, she's regurgitating all of this gun control. She just stated that so many guns in the hands of black men. The other day, the same thing that was stated by Bloomberg. But then again, when she was inaugurated, she gave her inauguration speech, the Bloomberg buck came into play immediately.
Yeah.
Oh, she's going to meet up with the Bloomberg moms and do all of this. This is how I know she has ruined herself already.
Well, the Bloomberg bucks are going to continue flying around the country through election day as well. We know that's going to happen. But Rhonda, listen, I cannot thank you enough for coming on the program. I mean, you are somebody who is, as you say, you've been fighting for years to make Chicago a safer city, to ensure that, good people who live in high crime neighborhoods can protect themselves, that the right to keep and bear arms is a real right and it's not a privilege in Chicago. And I appreciate all of the work that you have done, all the work that you continue to do. You do it when the spotlight's on you. You do it when the spotlight is not on you. You are a fighter and you are a role model. and really, it is always so good to catch up with you. I hope it's not too long before we get a chance to talk again.
Absolutely, Cam. Well, I can tell you this. The work that we've done is playing out. We're seeing it. We're seeing the people get involved. The numbers are showing it. We had 40,000 new FOIA card owners last month in Illinois, and it's going to continue to rise because we are out. We are doing it. People are getting involved. And I can't say enough. So the work that we've done, is it helping? Absolutely, it's working. We see the people. We see the new organization, and we can't get enough of it.
Appreciate Rhonda joining us on the program. And I tell you what, let's stick with the Chicago theme for just a moment here as we move into our armed citizen story, our good deed of the day, and our recidivist report, because the individual who was shot by Chicago police on Sunday, that, again, the rumors were all of a sudden this was a child who had been shot, an unarmed child shot by Chicago police officers. Hundreds of people show up at the neighborhood, and then later that night, again, the looting begins downtown. So the 20-year-old who was actually involved in this incident, who was shot by Chicago police, has now been charged after allegedly firing on police officers. The Chicago Tribune, with the details of the arrest there in Chicago. And, as it turns out, this is a guy who was known to law enforcement. Latrell Allen is expected to have a bond hearing today on 2 counts of attempted murder as well as 1 count of unlawful gun possession. Police say that Allen fired shots at officers who were chasing him on a block not far from Allen's address Sunday afternoon. He was taken to University of Chicago Medical Center. He is expected to survive. Unknown whether or not he'll be able to attend court in person. According to the Chicago Tribune, Allen pleaded guilty to burglary last year and was sentenced to probation. Also faces a pending misdemeanor reckless assault and reckless conduct charge, as well as a child endangerment case from earlier this year. Now, one thing I am kind of confused about is that he's facing 2 counts of attempted murder for shooting at officers, 1 count of unlawful gun possession, which is not the same as a felon in possession of a firearm. And in Illinois, if you are caught with a firearm and you don't have a firearms owner ID card, that's what's going to get you an unlawful gun possession charge. Considering that this guy was convicted of burglary last year, burglary should be a felony offense. I'm not sure why this individual is not facing felon in possession charges, but at the moment, anyway, Latrell Allen is not. He is, however, our recidivist report subject today. On to today's armed citizen story from Florida, where a sheriff says a homeowner used his Second Amendment rights when he killed an intruder. This from Pasco County Sheriff Chris Nacco. Said the unnamed homeowner acted in self-defense when he shot and killed 55-year-old Ronald Fleet in Land O'Lakes, Florida, on Saturday. According to the sheriff, the victim was utilizing his Second Amendment right to protect himself and his family from the fear of Ronald, who was carrying a gun and kicking in the door. Nako went on to say, I can't imagine the fear that they were going through. Sheriff says this suspect, Ronald Fleet, was the estranged husband of a person who lived in the homeowner's house. The woman was in the process of divorcing Fleet, who went to the home enraged that the homeowner was supporting the woman. According to officials, Fleet had been arrested in the past on domestic battery charges. Sheriff Nako says Fleet kicked in the door, fired a shot at the homeowner. Homeowner then fired a shot back at him, acting in self-defense. Sheriff Nako says the family was helping to protect the woman during the legal proceedings, said it was a horrific marriage. Thankfully, nobody else was injured in the shooting. Incident does remain under investigation. But again, at this point, appears to be a clear-cut case of not only self-defense, but defense of others there in Land O'Lakes, Florida. Finally, our good deed of the day from the state of Michigan, where an officer in Otsego, Michigan, saved a teen after the teenager jumped into the Kalamazoo River Sunday evening. A runaway 14-year-old child, according to police, actually leapt from a moving car there as it was driving over the Farmer Street Bridge in an attempt to commit suicide. Two officers saw the incident. They went downriver to try to save the teenager. One of the officers able to safely get the teen out of the moving water using ropes. Teen described as suffering some minor injuries. Hopefully that 14-year-old is going to get the help that they need. I don't know what that 14-year-old is going through, but I can tell you it does get better. No matter how bad you think it is now, it does. It does get better. That is all the time we've got for you on this edition of Bearing Arms Cam and Company. I want to thank you for being a part of the program today. We'll be back tomorrow with more of the day's top stories. Also coming up Wednesday at 1:30 Eastern, going to be doing another live chat with my friend Ed Morrissey from Hot Air. I believe one of the folks from Twitchy is going to be joining us as well. You can be a part of that live chat if you are a VIP Gold member of Town Hall Media. That gets you exclusive analysis, commentary, stories, live chats, other cool stuff throughout the Town Hall Media family, which is Bearing Arms, Red State, Twitchy, PJ Media, Hot Air, townhall.com. I think I got all of them. I think there might be one more. And if you become a VIP Gold member, we certainly do appreciate your support. We have had a great conversation with our VIP members over the last few weeks. Took last week off because I was on vacation, but we're going to get it going again tomorrow. And hope that you can be a part of that as well. If not, well, we'll at least see you here on Bearing Arms Cam and Company, right? Until we have a chance to talk again, be well, be safe, be free, and we'll see you soon with more Bearing Arms Cam and Company.